Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. This is Man and Machine Podcast Xtreme. We're going to continue the discussion that we started last week because we went on for too long. The topic was the second season assault weapon systems, both released and unreleased, the prototypes that were featured in the toy catalogs, some concepts, and of course the unreleased figures. Next week, we're going to have a very special guest on the show. I don't want to reveal his identity yet, but it's going to be, if things go well, pretty exciting, and you're going to learn some pretty amazing things about the show that we all love. Until then, enjoy this current episode as we wrap up the unreleased and rare toys section, and let's continue with John Thunder. Mark, why don't you give an intro on his weapon systems?
John Thunder has infiltrated our humble little podcast with his assault weapon systems, the first of which is his basic system, Silent Arrow, which, if memory serves, was called Brave Arrow at least once in the TV series. Once again, we're getting the stereotypical Native American thing because, I mean, what do you give a Native American character? A bow and arrow. How do you do like a high-tech version of it? Well, let me quote to myself again. Silent Arrow's power crossbow backpack fires a pursuit arrow which breaks apart in flight, revealing a net that captures evildoers. Now that would have been a really cool feature, and I wish I had seen that in action. The assault weapon system also includes solar-energized chest armor, 2 semi-automatic laser carbines, a solar-reflective head shield, and a vibro knife, the only handheld weapon in the Centurions' arsenal, although it attaches to exoframes. It has like a little thing coming from the handle, so John can put it on his exoframe, but he can also use it as a throwing knife to vibrate through obstacles.
Right. So this weapon system, not only because it comes with John, it's especially interesting because it has a melee weapon, and it has an atypical helmet because John's helmet, it looks drastically different than from the other helmets that the cast has, and also having a missile launcher follows the pattern. I would say that the first wave set with the weapon systems that came with the figures. So I would say that this kind of echoes Fire Force a bit. I might be biased, but the launcher kind of looks like that. But also, I think the colors would have worked with Max well. And it's just interesting to how they designed this kind of more nude figure with the exoframe more resembling an actual frame as opposed to an exosuit, and one interesting tidbit, again, just to throw it out there, is that the figure itself seems to be suffering from some design issues because the way John Thunder is featured in the photograph of the boxed version of this weapon system and in the catalog picture, he has a massively elongated neck. So his neck really looks like it wasn't attached properly, or there was some design flaw at the point in time when these photos were made that prevented him to have the same type of, regular human neck length like the other figures.
Or a third possibility, John Thunder is really mecha-neck.
Oh, come on with... You and your Masters of the Universe references. I'm sorry, I respect Masters of the Universe, but still, it kind of echoes, a vague, I don't know, Planet Bizarro feel to me when I look at those toys with those cyborgs and stuff.
Well, I know, yeah. I just saw a couple opportunities and I took them. And I gotta say this about Masters of the Universe. it paves the way for all the other toy-based cartoons. So without Masters, Centurions would have never existed. So respect where it's due, or at least it would have existed the same way.
Yeah, and I would say that if Masters could come was able to come back, like there are even like Lego compatible Masters of the Universe figures. They are called actually what are they called? Mega Blocks in the Mega Blocks line. Maybe it can also pave the way for a rebirth of the Centurions. Now, one final thing that I wanted to mention regarding Silent Arrow is that there was actually a web element in the toy. Supposedly, at least on the stock photos, it shows that the missile is attached to, or actually the missile pops to two parts, and there's a web inside. So if you launch the missile from the toy, it actually pops open. I don't know how effective it would have been to actually capture anything like toy wise, but it definitely is an interesting missile in the fact that it's not just a simple missile, but it pops open to actually have the net capability. So it's pretty cool. And
yes, it does have it. The missile does have the capture net. Yes. One more thing I'd like to mention about Silent Arrow, which is that one of our members, I probably shouldn't say which one, has at least part of the Silent Arrow prototype, including the backpack, and it has a couple of blue spaces, right next to the on either side of the arrow launcher where you can put accessories. And the guys told me that the blue spaces, the blue things, they're round and they spin around. And so I'm just imagining this assault weapon system with a couple of what amounts to googly eyes on the back.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I actually can see it in the stock photos. So it's pretty fascinating. But now let's move on to the...
Yeah, speaking of John Thunder and spinning stuff, it's time for Thunder Knife, which would have been a really fun assault weapon system if it had been released.
Sorry, you know what would have been a cool name for this? Slash Bash.
Yeah, it was originally titled Slash Bash, and then they decided to call it Thunder Knife. I personally would have called it Buzzsaw, but I can see why Kenner didn't go with that, because they were doing another Buzzsaw toy at the same time. He was one of the villains from Silverhawks.
So what do we have on this toy?
We have this. This all-around assault weapon system adds yet another innovative design to the Centurions range. John uses its two rotating mega laser discs, they look like giant pizza cutters, and two axe-slashing blades to cut through obstacles and penetrate enemy lines. Good. The back-mounted cannon unit with launching missile provides additional firepower. Best of all, the tank-like base, complete with working treads, has a unique action figure, a rotating platform that spins John and his weapons around as it rolls, turning Thunder Knife into a gigantic circular saw. John can use his fighting machine in standing or prone positions, and a neutral switch deactivate the spinning action to keep him from becoming too dizzy.
Interesting.
Now, something I got to mention here is that while you see John using Thunder Knife in standing position on the cartoon, you never see it in the toy photos. So maybe Kenner tried that and it didn't work. I don't know.
It's interesting that they do have a standing stance in the photos, but it features the tank body, or the one with the threads on his chest, which kind of makes it look clunky and feels like the toy photographer misaligned the accessories on the figure.
That is possible, and I wonder who this toy photographer was. If this guy's still around, it would be cool to talk to him, or woman, who knows. Anyway, something else I should mention besides the fact that Thunder Knife is like the ultimate coolness, I'd love to have it, is that on the packaging for the second year, instead of the tagline being like air assault weapon system, land assault weapon system, or whatever, it just says toy vehicle and accessories. Whereas on the figures themselves, with Ace it said like air operations specialist, but no, for John and Rex it just says action figure.
Interesting. I actually, thinking, in the cartoon terms, I'm actually curious how this meeting, happened. Like John goes in and, somebody's there, maybe Crystal Kane or an engineer, and pitches that he's going to use this Thunder Knife weapon system. And he's like, wait, come again. You want me to like be in a machine that produces erratically around its axis to destroy enemies when I could just like knife them or shoot them? And they're like, yeah, that's the exact concept that we're hiring you. And then you could make some like more adult themed jokes like, oh yeah, you couldn't give it to one of the white guys, you had to like pick the minority character to have the gimmicky weapon system. But it's exotic. I'm not going to argue with Mark when he says that this would be a fantastic toy to have. I'm especially attracted to the thread type thing. Mark, in the cartoons, was he standing on the thread base when in standing?
Well, he used it in both modes depending on the episode. Like, for example, I remember he used it in standing mode in Zone Dancer.
Oh, yeah. So anyways, our favorite infiltration specialist has this huge ass spinning weapon system that's probably not going to win any stealth awards, but it's still looking fantastic.
Yeah, and I just hope that John did a lot of training with like what that gyro thing they used to train the Air Force pilots and astronauts and stuff.
I know what you mean. Yeah, the thing that spins around to test their ability to resist high speeds.
Yeah. Speaking of astronauts, you want to get to Vic McCloud now?
Well, do you have anything to mention about Vic McCloud regarding the weapon systems?
Well, not really regarding the weapon systems. Well, I guess I could try. Anyway, this would-be sixth Centurion was mentioned as being under consideration on a Kenner release sheet, and that's as far as he ever got. This is as much as I know about Vic. 1. He was predictably Ace McCloud's brother. 2. He would have been the Centurion space operations specialist. 3. His exoframe, including a cool-looking bubble helmet and 2 assault weapon systems, had already been designed when Kenner pulled the plug. The two-line drawings are the only artwork of Vic that I've ever seen. I would just love to know if anyone involved with Centurions has more information about this guy, because there's got to be more than just the 2 line drawings out there.
Yeah, I remember you posting the picture with his helmet on. Do you have any images with no helmet on?
No. I mean, that's the only evidence I have that this guy ever existed. And, okay, let me describe the 2 weapon systems the best as I can. There's one where there's this like big sort of triangular like thing on his back. I wonder if we will have spun around or not. There's a chest pack that appears to have some sort of rocket or missile attached. It looks like his legs have 2 lasers attached to them. There might be an extra backpack attached to the spinning thing. That's the basic weapon system. And then there's another one where the backpack goes over his head a little, and it has a built-in laser coming out of it. And can't really see what the chest back is, but his feet are attached to this this platform that has what looks like 4 thrusters attached to it. So, yeah, I mean, I would love to know more about Vic and his weapon systems, but sorry, that's all I can tell you until someone comes forward.
Right, and we know you are out there, a person who knows the secrets of this show, so we're going to find you, and we're going to hopefully have some questions for you. But before we wrap the show for today, because we're kind of running out of time, or we're going over time, so I have to really trim this episode really tightly, we cannot, avoid mentioning wall climber and skyscaler. Now, Mark, out of turn, I'd like to just summarize these two quickly, and then you'll chime in with the weapons if that's okay with you, because
Okay, first it's Wall Walker.
Wall Walker.
And
Thank you.
okay, I can just read my wiki entries real quick.
Yeah.
Skyscaler is a proposed assault weapon system for the Centurions toy line. It exists only as a piece of presentation artwork. Skyscaler is similar to the equipment from Kenner's Sky Commander's line in that its backpack will allow a hero figure represented by an unknown Centurion in the artwork to scale walls via a launching tether with grappling hook and suction cup, which was attached to the backpack. Skyscaler also would have converted to a sled-like vehicle that a hero figure could sit on. Its other weapons include a chest-mounted rock-crushing drill that presumably rotated, a multi-function laser cluster, and a high-altitude ballistics chamber, all equipment shared with Wall Walker, another piece of presentation art featuring a similar assault weapon system. Okay, and this one is blue with magenta highlights, and the Centurion shown has it's basically the opposite of Rex's color scheme because it's primarily a sort of maroon color with white or light yellow highlights, and the Centurion is wearing a unique helmet that has a shield on it, kind of like police shields or these things that they're selling for...
Yeah, like a visor.
Yeah, or these things that they're selling for coronavirus these days. But yeah, so that's what it looks like. And of course, you can go to Centurions.fandom.com to get more info on this and all the unproduced toys.
Right. Then give us just an intro on Wall Walker as well, if you haven't, because then let's get that out of the way as well.
Okay. It will allow the hero figure to scale walls via a twin spool power winch with tethered hook launcher and suction cup, which was attached to the backpack. Wall Walker also will have converted to a wheeled cycle-like vehicle that a hero figure could sit on. Its other weapons include a chest-mounted marble and granite drill that presumably rotated, a multifunction laser cluster, and a suction cup bomb. All equipment shared with Skyscaler, another piece of presentation art featuring a similar assault weapon system. And this time, the unknown Centurion, he looks a little like Rex in that he has like a red beard, only no mustache on this guy. It's like he's going for the old-fashioned schooner captain look. And and his exoframe is kind of the opposite of Ace's color scheme in that like the silver parts are blue and the blue parts are silver. And also people have brought up to me that they wonder how well the suction cup actually would have fastened either of these heavy toys onto a wall. I mean, who knows? I don't know if Kenner got as far as doing a prototype for either of these things, but, I appreciate their willingness to experiment. And, of course, they did Sky Commanders, which was sort of built around the pretend flight scheme, so it had some pretend wall scaling there, and then there's a Batman toy that actually could go up and down a wall when they got the Batman license in 1991. So Kenner did find a way to make these ideas work for them. I just wish that they'd been able to make them work with Centurions. It was a line that deserved to be much more successful than it was.
Yeah, and just to add a bit of context, and the kind of like the how to place this within the world of 80s toys. This concept, one of our again just ideas or suspicions, is that this toy actually might have been the origin of what is Sky Commander that you mentioned? Mark.
Yeah.
This might have been the origin of the Sky Commander concept, and those figures were smaller. So maybe
Well, who knows?
who knows? But
Yeah.
I think there are some valid arguments. The Centurions toys were too large, I think, and too heavy for the suction cup to be to bear that weight, and also have a production cost low enough for it to be feasible. Also, I would say that it doesn't really, in my personal opinion, and again, I'm just a collector, I'm just a fan, I'm not a toy designer. It doesn't really, like, even though I like the color schemes and I would love to have it in my hands, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would they have a wall climbing toy? How would they justify it in the story? Like, okay, if we need to get over something, Ace could fly, obviously all of his gear flies. Jake could use Hornet. Max could use his thrusters to gain limited flight, and Rex can fly, and John doesn't need to get over a wall because he just infiltrates things. So basically there wouldn't be really a reason to have these. I know that probably these toy designers pitch ideas to the company, and a manager or a group of decision makers come up with these decisions. But unfortunately, I think there was a valid point in this gimmick not really being used or produced. And then again, there's Sky Commanders, where even though it was used and toys were made, it kind of felt forced to have this idea. But then again, I think that was a better place for this gimmick because all of the toys shared this gimmick. So there was a legend, there was a story rationale behind having these climbing toys. And again, as a kid, it would be cool to have your toy climb a wall by itself. But I don't really think it fits into the Centurions ecosystem that well. And now to talk about the two characters displayed, I'm really curious. And again, we don't have any.
Oh, wait, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Wait. Can I say one more thing first? Okay, about the story logic. Yeah, you have a point. I'd also like to mention that these characters can teleport. I mean, if they really need to get through an obstacle, maybe they can just say, "Hey, Crystal, beam me up to Skyvault," and then beam me back on the other side of this obstacle. I mean, assuming they could get in touch with Crystal, who knows? But, to explain why these things might have made into the toy line, let me quote the late, great Stan Freberg. Profit doesn't need a reason.
I agree with that, although I would say that, if something doesn't really make sense in a child's mind, like any 6-year-old, 8-year-old could say, like, hey, the main story thing about Centurions is that they can teleport anywhere. So why would they need to climb a wall if they could just, like you said, Mark, if they could just teleport to the other side of the wall or something? It feels forced. And I think children, even though stupid toys have been purchased by children and parents all around the world, I'm not going to name any right now, but you know what I mean. It kind of felt like the ugly duckling of the toy lines. I think the main attraction here are the two characters that are displayed here. Now, previously discussing this with Mark, one of his alternatives for it is that these toys, these figures might just be placeholders, and these were never intended to be displayed. My kind of optimistic take on this is that I think they might have been figures that were either pitched by the same artist or the same designer that created these toys, but were these figures were ultimately not even included in the Bible or not even forwarded to Kenner, or they're characters which were planned but eventually didn't make the cut because season 3 never happened or season 4 never happened. I would say that maybe one of these. I would say that if I really want to be if I want to be the Giorgio Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens, the guy who comes up with these theories about stories, I would say that the wall walker is possibly featuring Vic, because his color scheme is very very similar to Ace's, with the blues and the whites and the kind of the cyan color. And basically,
And they're both redheads.
yeah, and even the hair matches. Although this guy has a neck beard, so I would say that it's different, but it's also very similar. So I could totally picture them side by side as like, hey, this is my brother, and then Jake, in his usual sense, questioning why there's not an official recruiting process, why you could just bring your family members on board, nepotism. And in the case of Skyscaler, I would say that, and this is just my fan theory. Again, I see this also as a character, because why would they design a unique piece of helmet for the character if he's just a placeholder? They could have, if the character in Wallwalker, who we just discussed, looks very much like Ace, doesn't have a helmet. If he is just a placeholder for a figure, why did they design a specific helmet with a visor that's drastically different from the Centurions helmet to be featured on Skyscaler? Again, I don't know. This guy features red as his main color, features white as the filler, and features cyan as kind of the detail colors. So I would say that this could be an Arctic figure, this could be a flame specialist or something, but it really, or whatever, or maybe an antagonist, because and we're going to discuss antagonists next time, but the antagonist toys didn't really grow and didn't really scale with the with the protagonist toys. So there wasn't really a new character joining Hacker and Dog Terror. So I'm thinking maybe there one rationale behind having two wall climbing toys would have been that one was for the good guys and another one was for the bad guys, so that there would, and in the storyline in the cartoon there would have been a reason to pit these against each other. That's why one has wheels, the other one has skids that looks like a sled, but like Mark said, the weapons on these suits are identical, so they didn't really go as far as to completely design new guns for them. So this is just my 2 cents, but I think it's fun to think who these characters could have been and what we can maybe discover about these characters. And one note that we keep telling you guys is that now coming to the end of the episode, is that please share the podcast with friends who might be interested, or post it on Facebook, or like, and follow us. And on YouTube, please hit the little bell, click subscribe, because we're not really doing this for ourselves. We could just sit around talk Centurions for hours, but we're trying to really give a good shot at and at reviving the series. And one of the prerequisites for that, I would say, is that we should show whoever is the decision maker or the rights holder that there are actually people interested in this. And again, one great way is to have this Facebook group that we have, but another great way would be to have media like this podcast and show that people are actually, after 30 years plus, they're still invested and interested in seeing these toys happen again. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this.
By the way, the Facebook group is closing in on 1,000 members.
Oh, that's impressive. A few months ago, we only had 800, and I think we just started a few years ago, so maybe 2-3 years ago. So that's impressive.
So are we wrapping?
Yeah, we're about to wrap. Any final closing thoughts before we say our goodbyes to today's topic, or anything for the future?
Yeah, you were mentioning the recruiting process. Well, I don't know if the Centurions really had one, because in Manor Machine, when they're introducing the new stuff, Max just says to Jake and Ace, "Hey guys, here's our new team members, and here's some new assault weapon systems for us and for the other team members. So basically, that according to that episode, these guys have no input as to who gets chosen for the team or even what assault weapon systems they themselves are going to be using, which is probably not the best way to do it. If and when Centurions is revived, yeah, they should have like a vetting process where the Centurions can like choose who they're going to work with and get input into how their assault weapon systems are designed, because they're the ones who are going to be using them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Ace also has this this kind of test pilot attitude. So why wouldn't he be left out of the design and prototyping process? And if someone else prototyped it, who are the test pilots for these weapon systems? If they didn't have any input into the design.
Yeah, I mean, these are all characters whose job involves them risking their lives on a regular basis.
Right. Oh, before we leave, guys, and I really have to trim this episode now. One really important thing that I wanted to mention, because it's your contribution to the show, is that this week we had another poll, and thankfully a lot of you guys responded to it. And this question this week was, which unproduced assault weapon system would you be the most interested in getting? And basically, many people responded, and although there was a confusion because I didn't really state, unfortunately, in advance that I only meant weapon systems. So in the case of Electrocharger, they kind of thought, oh, well, I would buy this because it also has the Rex figure. But anyways, here are the scores. I would say going from down up to the top of the mountain would be the most exciting. Unfortunately, Skyscaler got no votes, so nobody wants to see Skyscaler apparently produced, or nobody's interested in having it as their favorite. Silent Arrow for John, which was... Oh, you are? Yeah, of course. I'm sorry. This was for favorites. So nobody's favorite was Skyscaler. Nobody's favorite was Silent Arrow for John. So that's interesting that John's default weapon system attracted no one. Wallwalker got 1 vote. Gatling Guard for Rex got 1 vote. Fathom Fan for Max 2 votes. Awesome Augur Jake 3 votes. So apparently Jake is not always the favorite. Strato Strike for Ace is 4 votes, just a few votes shy of the top 3. And here's our top 3 for the favorite unproduced or concept weapon system. Drum roll, please. Thank you. Third is a joint choice, the accessory packs, because I didn't want to split this vote up. So it's Aqua Blazer, Land Laser, and Aerosalt, or at least one of them. This got 5 votes. Actually, I was really surprised about this, because this means that people would have really been into, at least in hindsight, these accessory systems, which didn't really mean a complete weapon system, just an attachment to existing figures. Maybe people are thinking that they already have the easy to access basic figures that you can still buy on eBay, so these would be a nice little spice to that. The second choice was Thunder Knife by John, and the accessory packs previously got 5 votes. Thunder Knife got 7 votes. So apparently John's big weapon system, and I see your vote here, Mark as well, got the second most numerous support. So it's interesting, even though it's a really exotic weapon system that so many people liked it. And Electrocharger, so Rex's smaller weapon system, got an overwhelming 13 votes. So that's almost double as the runner-up Thunder Knife. So Electrocharger really is apparently, based on our poll, the favorite for, when it comes to unproduced toys. Mark, what's your take on the result?
Well, as you said, I'm wondering how many people thought saw Electrocharger and thought the Rex Charger figure itself, which obviously would be great to own them both.
So yeah, it's interesting that for Rex it was the smaller, and for John, the runner-up, it was the larger weapon system that people preferred, and also for Rex, the Gatling Guard only got 1 vote. I think maybe you're right that for John, the appeal of the figure itself was not strong enough to be a favorite versus Silent Arrow, so people were more into the weapon system. But when it comes to Rex, the glow-in-the-dark gimmick, or maybe the figure itself, was probably the winning argument for Electrocharger. And the weapon system also is kind of cool, but doesn't have a chest piece, so it's not even that ripe with accessories.
Well, I mean, all I can say is that John was one of the best characters in the show, and I'd love to have his figure too.
Yeah, so if there's anyone out there who's willing to sell his John to Mark for $150, paid in two $50 installments and a handshake, reach out to
Not these days.
Not these days. Please reach out to Mr. Mark Longo on Facebook, and he's going to accommodate your wishes to get rid of John Thunder.
By the way, I have one last thing to add to Straddle Strike, which are, what are those two big red triangular things on Ace's legs? I have no idea what they're supposed to do or be.
I guess maybe aerodynamics or something like that. My personal vote, because for the second time in a row I forgot to vote on my own poll. I would have said Gatling Guard, and I'm putting my vote on it right now, because I kind of, now that Mark mentioned it, I agree that, even though maybe not a complete equal to the flag in G.I. Joe, because there was just one massive piece of plastic that housed like planes and G.I. Joe figures, etc. This wasn't that. This wasn't Centurion's base, or I wonder if actually they ever considered doing a sky vault or a beam down chamber. But this wasn't that big. But actually,
yes, they did. We can talk about that. They did. They did consider a sky vault toy, and we should talk about that next week.
True. So interesting. Yeah. So let's keep that thought for next week. I'm just saying that I also bought into the whole, wow, this is a huge, massive toy, the biggest in the Centurions line. I would love to have it. So yeah, if we don't have anything else to add, Mark, would you do the honors of wrapping up the show?
Really, Yuri? Why would you want to have me do the honor of saying Power Xtreme?